Ahoy, mateys! 'Tis I, Captain Horatio Honeyflakes, and I be here to tell you about me newest crowdfunding campaign. The adventures continue with me crew, the Mighty Mascots, in issues 7, 8, and 9. Just focus your looking glass on the amazing artwork of Ian Warianto and Anton Bondi. Me crew, the Mighty Mascots, are up against some scurvy scallywags, and we need ye help to defeat them. There be a bounty of exclusive treasure, only available here, where X marks the spot. I spy a huge coffer of bonuses and stretch goals on the horizon. Then please consider pledging so we can continue these adventures with the weirdest crew I ever had the pleasure of sailing with. Mascots Unleash!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots, and with me, as always, Johnny C., creator of Surrounded by Death and Sartana. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? It feels like forever since I last saw you.
Dude, well, you just got back from Spooky Empire, right?
Yep, I was at Spooky Empire.
I think, it's been a while, right, since our last show.
And we missed last week's show. We had to do an abrupt cancellation, which I don't think even in the history of doing it have we had an abrupt cancellation before.
No, right? And I should address that a little bit. I did kind of go on social media and say, that we had to cancel that show, but it was like it was the signs were there not to do the show that night.
Yeah.
Well, first I think your dad was back in the hospital, which you told me he's home now, right?
Yeah, everything's cool.
Oh, good,
he's good now, so that's good. That was a stress on me.
I was gonna say your dedication when you texted me and you said, "I'll set up and I'll do it from the hospital," and I'm like, "No, dude, no."
Yeah, well, so my thought process is that there's a lot of waiting rooms in the hospital, and that's what being another person at a hospital is. Like if somebody's in there, you're doing a lot of waiting. So I could have easily ducked into a room and just if I had to bounce, I would have bounced. But I mean, I was like, well, and I really didn't want to miss it because I'm in the Wayward Raven anthology. We suck at comics.
Yeah.
I love Sebastian. He's great. Mark and Alex are all just wonderful friends, comic creators.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I got a message from Sebastian that morning saying that he had COVID, so he had to dip out. And then I was like, all right, well, we still have Mark and Alex from Wayward Raven coming on. And then Sebastian told me that Mark was dipping out. And then I'm like, well, Johnny, you had that stuff going on. So I'm like, you know what? I think the universe is telling us not to do this show tonight. So that's why I kind of abruptly canceled, So it just kind of didn't, I don't know.
I think you made the right call, but I think we're going to make it up to Wayward Raven. We'll probably do a 5 questions video sometime in the near future.
Yeah, that'd be great.
While the campaign's still running.
Yeah, and I popped over to campaign I think earlier this week, and those guys are going to hit the campaign goal no problem. Oh, you did? Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great to hear.
Yeah, so now it looks stretch goals from here on out, which is nice.
Awesome. That's great to hear. The name of it, the idea behind it is great. So I'm glad you guys hit, and I knew you would when I looked at it, and I was like, oh, this is gonna hit no problem. I'm happy to hear that it did though. That's fantastic. Man. Yeah,
I'm psyched for that. It's I'm really glad to be a part of an anthology with those guys because they're people that I've known for a really long time.
Yeah.
In getting started with comics and primarily through New York Comic Con and the Creator Connection event we do at the Twins Pub. So, and we've talked about it forever, saying that we all want to have an anthology that we're all in, so that way, if we're all ever at a show together, we all have the same book on each other's tables. We can say, "Oh, go to their table, sign that autograph over there." "Oh, I bought it for me. Go see Mark and Alex at that table. Have the book over there." And we're sharing an audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. There's something going on with your mic, Johnny. You're like coming in and out. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like sometimes it sounds warbled. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
And
let me mess with the settings while you're.
Yeah. Now, now you sound fine. Like so,
Okay.
but before that, I don't know what it is. Is it a distance thing, maybe, or?
Maybe here. I'll move myself a little closer. How about this? Is this better?
Yeah. You sound fine there. So
okay.
yeah. I don't know what it is. Maybe
I'm
it's
operating off my phone this time. Hence the long view with the black bars in the side.
Gotcha. Nice. Do you have? I don't know if you have. Do you have like the earbuds with the mic? That might make it sound better.
No, I don't have earbuds in. I'm going right off my phone this time. So
gotcha. You sound fine right now.
It's problematic. So
I gotcha. Yeah, you sound fine now. So maybe
Okay.
No. But yeah, no, that's good to hear. I'm glad they made it. Like so, yeah, that's great. One thing I wanted to show just real quick is my campaign before we bring in tonight's guest because we have 3 guests tonight.
Right now.
What's up?
In demand right now.
Yeah, in demand right now. It had a little bit of a movement, since the last we talked. I think it was at 7,300. So it's bumped up. It's almost ready to hit 75, which is nice. So we've had a little bit of activity the last few weeks, which is nice. I am I don't know if you saw some of my Twitter posts. I'm working on muscle type figures of the Mighty Mascots.
Oh yeah, the Muscle Men. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
it's on the prototype of Boxer Bear, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, I just got in. So this is kind of cool. Like I just got in all 8 of them, the actual prototypes this week, and now I'm. So it's moving forward a lot quicker than I thought it was gonna be. So it's looking like I'm gonna actually have all the figures within probably about 4 months or so. So. I'll have 30 to 50 of each one. So I'm gonna start putting packages together, so they'll be. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is this gonna be an add-on for the campaign? Or?
That's what I'm thinking. If I still have the campaign open, I might throw them on the campaign and just try to get the campaign up to 10 grand, and and just kind of that's where I was kind of my sweet spot for the campaign was. So I'm hoping Amy brought me down to the Boxer Bear one. So let me show you this.
Let's get a close up on that.
Yeah. So this is really cool. I think it came out so good, dude.
Wow.
So this is just the prototype.
Amazing.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's so cool. And he's pliable, right? He's rubbery.
No, he's hard plastic. So.
Oh, hard plastic. Got you.
So let me see if I can give you a height analysis. So. Here's my can of Coke I'm drinking. So. Oh,
okay.
So maybe it's about 2 inches.
The Muscle Man being smaller, so he's a little bit.
Yeah,
bigger.
This is one of the bigger, beefier ones. That. It's funny too. He did him kind of to scale, which is great. So Boxer Bear is the biggest one, and then Boom is the second biggest one. He's slightly smaller than this, and then Mondo is really got a huge head and a tiny body. So yeah, it's really cool. I don't know if you can see that. It's really neat. So I've been sharing out pictures of that. So yeah, I can't wait to. So they'll all be pink like the muscle figures were, and then we're designing the packages now. So I can't wait. I think it's gonna be really cool. And I'm gonna do 2 packs of 8. So there'll be 8 sets with 2 in each of the things, and I'd sell them for probably about $10.
I want the whole set.
Nice.
Take my money, please.
And I gotta thank your cousin Roger though, because he gave me back at Plastic City. He gave me one of those customized Hot Wheels cars that he does.
Oh yeah.
But the packaging he used for those is perfect. I can put in the
clamshell.
The clamshell. So I'm gonna buy a bunch of those, use that as the packaging, and then I'm gonna make my own cardboard backer that goes in there. So it's gonna have a really nice quality, look to it. So I can't wait.
Big shout out to Roger on that.
Yeah, definitely. If he's in the chat, he's in the chat tonight. There he is.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Roger. If you heard that, they gave me the idea to use those packaging, that you use for your Hot Wheels, which is awesome. So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited for it. So. All right, before we bring our guests in tonight, let's say hello to the chat real quick. We got Roland with us tonight. Good to see you, buddy. Ara, of course. What's going
Ara,
on, man? Good to see
man,
you, buddy.
for watching.
My wife, of course.
Hey, Amy.
And let me see. DS Cartoon is with us. Woo, made it just in time. Love it. Love it. Love having you here.
DS time is always just in time.
Yeah, right. Let me see. Roland said hospital Wi-Fi is terrible. Oh, yeah, you might have had a problem with that, Johnny.
That's true. I would have been going through LTE anyway.
Yeah, and Ara wishes your dad good to get better.
Thank you,
nice.
thank you.
And Roland said Johnny sounds underwater, but I think
Hopefully
we got
it sound better now.
I think you do. Yeah, I think you do. I'm not hearing it. Keshi figurines. Yeah, that's exact. That's the correct term for those muscle figures. They're called Keshi in Japan, and I think they come in those like bubblegum machines, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you put a quarter in. And
and you get one,
A little egg, yeah.
Let me say the prototypes are hard plastic, but the Keshis will be that flexible pink kind of like hard plastic.
Got you.
Yeah. What did she say? Is the resin prototype to scale? Yes, I believe so. I think the prototype will be the scale of the figures. Like the Boxer Bear barely fits into that case that Roger has. So he gave me one of those so I could test it out, So like,
if Boxer Bear's the biggest of the trio, he should be sold separately, or it's like if you buy the rest of them, you get Boxer Bear for free or something.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
So that way you have to buy the set to get the complete, to get Boxer Bear. Like, the Marvel Build-A-Figures, like, they each come with
I was thinking that. Or what I was going to do is put Boxer with, like, Manny Coleman, because I think that one would be the least desirable one.
The smallest, yeah.
Because it's the human character, and no one wants the human character, But,
that was back in the day with those Toy Biz X-Men figures. The female characters were rare because they made less of them. So if you had an in-package Rogue from Toy Biz X-Men, the thing's worth a fortune.
No, is it really? I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool. I know we're getting a lot of people saying cool stuff about the figures. Amy said Boxer is 3 inches in the jumbo one. DS says that's a cool figure. Where did you get that made? I think Amy's gonna share that info in the chat. Jay Morris, hola, hey buddy, what's up?
Morris,
good to see you, man.
See you next week, buddy.
Dr. Mask is here. What's up?
Dr. Mask.
Man, we got a full house tonight, Johnny. This is
Lots
great.
of people watching. It's great.
Yeah. And Roland said, the Gachapon dispensers. I think that's what they were called. The bubblegum machines. Mail in 3 proofs of purchase and $1 for postage. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I love that.
The muscle figures did do that back in the day, which is great. All right, so we have a big show tonight. We got 3 creators on tonight. One's been on the show with us before. 2 of the other ones are new. But I'm looking forward to getting to know both of those guys. And one of them you met at SPX, right? When you were there.
Jared Throne was right around the corner for me at SPX. We chit-chatted a little bit. I saw he had this really awesome graphic novel that was hardcover. At a really great price too, so it was interesting. I decided to scoop it, and I'm over halfway through the book now, and I'm loving it so far. So,
awesome!
On have him talk a little bit more about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Dr. Mass is asking to see the figure because he missed it. So let me bring that up real quick. So here you go. This is the Boxer Bear. Now picture this is going to be pink like the muscle figures, and it's pretty big. It's about the size, about 3 inches or so. So yeah, it's really, really cool. Really, really, really impressive work, which is awesome. All right, so let's bring in our guests. I'm going to start with the first one here. We got Dave Kann with us. Dave, good to see you, buddy.
Guys.
How's it
going? Good to see you guys. How you doing?
Thanks for joining us. We got returning guest Brandon. Ingram, what's up, Brandon? Good to see you, buddy.
We haven't had Brandon since Terrificon when I was I barely made it to the show.
Yeah, that's right. That was a fun show. And then also got Jared with us. What's up, Jared? Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey,
good. Nice to meet you guys, all of you. And Dave, I've talked to you at Plastic a couple times, which is good. I saw you at Terrificon, which is good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So the one thing we always start the show off with, we always like to find out how people got into making comics, like what kind of like cartoon, movie, TV show, comic book that you read when you were a kid that kind of put you on a path to wanting to be a comic creator. I guess we'll start with Dave first. Is there anything you can point to in your past that kind of put you on this path, Dave?
It's kind of a combination of things. I mean, I started off reading comics pretty young, Marvel, mainly Marvel stuff, and had a pretty good collection. And then in the 90s, I got more into independent stuff, which I really liked. After that, I kind of fell out of comics, but I was working in the film industry at the time.
Okay.
And I'm also an artist myself, but I don't draw my own comics, but I used to do a lot of storyboards for films and stuff that I would work on. So for me, they always kind of went hand in hand. So, after working in the film industry for a number of years, I decided, some of the scripts I had written, I'd rather see, it was really hard to sell. It's hard to sell scripts anyways out in Hollywood. But if you have a booklet of pictures, it's a little easier. So it's one of those things where it at least gives them a template to see where you're going with the actual idea.
Gotcha. It gives you that visual, right,
as opposed to they go and say it's kind of like this and kind of like that. Whereas if you give them a book, it's like, oh, great. I don't even need to read it. I can tell what's going on by just the visual content. So that kind of got me back into doing comics and creating Lovecraft PI, which was our first book that we did. And, that actually, that was a hell of a learning experience on that first book. And then ever since then, we've been just kind of expanding that series as well as two other series. We started Berserker Soul Island and Zdar the Savage. So it's been a lot of fun. And so that's been kind of leading us, back to the well of trying to get these pitches done and moved on back into Hollywood again. So I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's been fun, just experimenting with it all,
Yeah. No, that's a smart move to like kind of have like a visual kind of representation to show like potential, producers and things like that, And even like if you ever wanted to crowdfund a movie, you have like stuff, you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of
your storyboards are all set.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because I actually I was talking to a few producers a couple of years ago about Lovecraft PI, and I sent them our second book, The Curious Case of ReAnimator. And one producer said to me, he goes, there's a lot of words in here. I got the gist of it because I just looked through the pictures. And I was like, hey, it all works for me, man. It's like,
right?
Kind of understand where I'm going. That's great,
That's a sign of a good comic, though, too, is that you don't necessarily have to read the words. You can look at the pages and get the idea of the story. Like, that's good, good writing.
Yeah, so and for me, it's always been, because I'm a very visual person to begin with, going to comics is, it's just another form for me of photography or shooting a film, but you're just doing it more of, in a smaller panel size, but you can make that small panel look pretty intense or elaborate or expansive, however you want.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
how about you, Jared? Was there something that you could point in your past that kind of wanted you to become a comic book maker, comic book creator?
Yeah, my parents bought me. They used to have these Marvel collections. I don't know if you guys remember them, called Essential Collections, and they were like black and white reprints. I have them over here. They're
those are the best. Like $15, and you got like this thick book. Yeah, those are great.
So I ended up reading the first, 40 issues or so of Spider-Man over and over and over again, which weirdly enough, they came out obviously in the early 60s, but I ended up just getting them at like 8-9 years old, which was like the target audience for that story.
Yeah.
And that was, I was just drawing little crummy comics through elementary school and stuff. And then I was writing quite a bit, just off and on over the years. And then once COVID hit and I was home more, I decided I was going to start really working on my own art and drawing. And so now I'm drawing on my own comics and do the book that Johnny mentioned.
So the Heavy Kill, that was done during COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I wrote it. Well, it took me a few years to write it. I'm sure everybody here, there it is. I'm sure everybody here has had that experience where ideas kind of bounce around. But I really wrote it in 2020, and then 2021, I was drawing it basically the entire year. And then I came out with it in 2022.
I looked at some of the pages on your website, and like the artwork is really nice. I definitely want to snag that from you at some point, and the price point is really cheap. Like for a hardcover book.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
I
Super
mean,
intentional about that.
what's that?
I was super intentional about that.
I figured it was more like you wanted to get it into people's hands rather than make a profit, which is that be accurate?
Yeah, I'm basically on razor thin margins, but I just didn't want anybody to be at a Comic-Con or something and look at it and for price to be the reason that they didn't want to pick it up.
Yeah, no.
Like, if you're interested in it, when you see the price, I want you to go, oh, well, I might as well grab it, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like that's one of the things I love about my publisher. They do the newsprint comics, and you don't even think about the price because it's so cheap, you know. So I love that about that, you know. So I'm kind of with you on that, you know, wavelength. Also with you on the Spider-Man too. Those early Spider-Mans were the best.
Yeah.
You know, so
and I still read Spider-Man every time it comes out.
I'm a huge fan too. That's how I started, but it was much later in the run where I picked up when I started. Yeah. But I've gone back and read some of those essentials, and I love that stuff. And Brandon, I know we asked you that question, but I am blanking on what your answer was at the time. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah. It was pretty much when I was like 7 or 8. I went to a yard sale, got a shoebox of comics, had like Amazing Spider-Man, Action Comics, all this stuff from the 70s and 80s. I just blew through reading all of those. I loved it, and that's kind of where my love for comics started. I think that's a good way for like little kids to get into comics is, hey, here's some random back issues. Yeah. It's like part 4 of a 10-part series that you're just in the middle of. Yeah. But you're so young, you're like, oh, holy crap, this is awesome.
Well, there's like, speaking of just, Halloween was yesterday, but like, remember, like sometimes you when you go out trick or treating, you would get a comic book once in a while, and like it would be that it would just be a random issue, like, and it was, it's you hope it's in a good spot where you can kind of understand the story, So
one of my earliest comic books actually came from there was like this community thing where my folks would go, and all the kids that went along would get like a bag full of like toys, and usually there would be like a comic book in there. So same thing. It's like when it's kind of like there given to you, you discover it, and then next thing you know, it's like you're hooked.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
right. And you're so young that it's like you're fine with reading this random part. Part in Amazing Spider-Man or whatever it is. It's not until later where you're like, well, I want to see what the heck happened before that, or I want to see what happened after that, because your story was basically like, okay, it began with Peter Parker, something's going on in his love life, I don't know what, and then at the end there's a cliffhanger, he's about to die, he's being dipped into boiling water or whatever, and that's it. That's my story that I just read. It's like, I guess that's the end.
That's the hook, though, right? Is you read those and you go, man, because I remember even reading complete stories and going, but I don't know anything about this other character that popped up.
Yeah, right. Well, that was a genius of Stan Lee, too. Like, every issue was... He always envisioned that every issue was somebody's first, so he kind of tried to tailor it that way. Like, it did have the running, like, soap opera elements, but it was never hard to understand, That was, like, the genius of his writing, I think.
Every issue had an introduction, like, always over again. Peter Parker... bitten by a radioactive spider, like everything was prefaced. So no matter what issue you picked up, there was things you may have not known, but you always had kind of a general idea of what was going on,
Yeah, definitely agree.
I think that's still a good rule too. That every because even comics that I've made, people will go, well, I don't read comics, I've never read one, but I know you and I want to read it. And in my mind, I'm like, I shouldn't be your first comic, okay? You should go try something else. But the reality is just like that's gonna happen, no matter what comic you're putting out, it's gonna be somebody's first experience with the medium.
Yeah, no, I like that though. Like, maybe you're the person's gateway into the industry, so
it's good to set that benchmark, right? Because if they like your stuff, it's like, well, just wait till you read like Garth Ennis or something. It's gonna
right. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, that I wanted to talk about with all three of you guys tonight, like you guys all have like comics, and even Johnny too, like have comics that are like have like a horror theme or horror adjacent kind of story, and like what do you think it is that like attracted you to wanting to make like a horror comic? Is it like we can go around the room and then we can discuss all together. But like, I guess start with you, Johnny, like since you're right in my order of windows here.
Yeah. I think so. Usually when I create a story, it's got to be like, well, what inspires me or what inspires this story? So I've always kind of had a love for horror movies and horror stories and things of that nature. So when the inspiration for The Pawn came, it just kind of like struck. So
was that your first horror comic? I forget.
Well, I mean, I don't really consider Surrounded by Death horror, even though it has horror elements. That's more comedy.
Yeah.
But
it's like, horror adjacent, I would say. Like you have blood and guts and monsters.
Yeah. So Surrounded by Death, definitely horror adjacent. But The Pond was my first like true to form straight horror story, and a lot of that came from inspiration from like being a kid watching Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, amazing stories. I loved like anthology horror in that regards, Twilight Zone. So like that's kind of what influenced me in terms of making and they even say when you pick up The Pond, the end of issue 1 in the back says like, if this this is only meant to be 2 issues, but if I were to go onward with it, it would be something anthology based, just a new story each time revolving around this villainous pond in this backwoods town.
Yeah, why not? You could keep it going.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Dave? What attracts you to the horror comics elements?
Well, a lot of different things. I mean, I think with ReAnimator, that in particular behind me, growing up behind my parents' house where I grew up, there's an unmarked cemetery that was from old sailors during the Spanish-American War. So like there's all these little placards are just numbers, no names. So having and I ended up finding a book years later, documenting like who these people were and such. So
weird.
Between that and then when I was about 14, when ReAnimator first came out, caught it on HBO, and that was my first
Gordon one.
The Stuart Gordon one, Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, Bruce Abbott, and that was my first introduction to H.P. Lovecraft. I've been reading a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so seeing like Lovecraft's name above it, I was like, okay, who's this guy Lovecraft? Is he like Poe? I was reading Clive Barker at the time, which was really popular, and Stephen King, and so that after seeing that movie, I was like, I got to find this guy. Who's this? Who created this type of world? Which obviously the movie's slightly different, but there's a lot of essences in it. So then, just as a young kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of great horror. So it just kind of became part of my childhood, and then getting into comics, being a Lovecraft fan, it just kind of worked because I like the cosmic horror and I also like pulp noir. Yeah. And so I think that both are actually, both horror essences in themselves. So just kind of combining that mix and just making this, making comics in that kind of sense, I think is kind of cool. So with ReAnimator, we wanted to kind of, it's kind of my little, homage to that experience as a kid growing up and experiencing that for the first time, kind of putting my own spin on it this time,
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I agree with you. Those movies are fantastic. Some of my favorite. I like all 3 of them. I know like the first one is still considered the best, but like I still like the other 2, even though Beyond ReAnimator's kind of
Bride's a lot of fun.
Bride is a lot of fun with with the head flying around with bat wings. I mean, you can't beat that stuff,
Eyes and fingers,
I love that.
I just wanted to ask real quick, just since we're on the subject. I know Lovecraft is in public domain, but was there anything that you had to be cautious of when doing this ReAnimator book, that you had to be careful of copyright from the movie?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of research in that because our other book, Zadar the Savage, we were trying to make that into a Tarzan book, and we were met with a bunch of situations on that. So when I was looking into this one, the only thing I couldn't really do is use anything of Jeffrey Combs, obviously, because he's all copywriting. Right, he's all into that movie.
You can't do other versions of ReAnimator, right? Like you can't copy the Dynamite comic version one either, right? Things like that.
No, so I mean, and with our Lovecraft PI series, I always go from Lovecraft's original source material anyways. Okay. And if I use anything, it's from his inner sanctum of authors that he was hanging around with. So, for me, I just went back to the original story and I just kind of expounded upon that because there's enough in there to take, to utilize.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I want to pay you a compliment, Dave. You gave me a copy of that book at Terrificon, and I had a chance to read it like about a month ago, and I really enjoyed it. I thought you nailed.
Thanks, man.
I thought you nailed both, like the horror elements and the noir stuff. I thought it really worked well together, and I really enjoyed the story. So next time I see you at a show, I'll have to grab the next one. You know.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, man.
And I want to definitely check out your ReAnimator one too. That's you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the ReAnimator 2 for me is like, especially with this book, the two characters are very. I was a big Hammer film fan as well.
Oh
so
yeah, that stuff's great. Yeah,
Christopher Lee. So with our character Ward Lovecraft and Herbert West being the two main characters in it, I have they're very much my Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. You know what I mean?
Nice,
and
yeah.
kind of parlaying that in there. So
that's great. I actually used the ReAnimator too. Like, I had started a story. I was doing like an anthology type thing where it was like the time traveler from the H.G. Wells story, but teaming up with all these different, historical kind of characters. And the first battle was going to be with Herbert West, and so I had like one part of the story. I never got to do the third part where he actually raised all these zombies for them to fight, but. Maybe I'll get back to it at some point, but it was a lot of fun, But how about you, Jared? Like, what tracks you to the horror? Because your book looks like it's very horror adjacent, right? Would you say it's a horror book?
I think horror is probably the simplest way to explain it. I tell people it's a horror book when I'm selling it. But
yeah, because I saw the cover, I saw the skulls, I saw the blood, so I'm like, it's either like a
But it's not like a slasher book or Johnny. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but in the process of reading it, you clearly have a lot of the core horror elements and tropes. Like you have a big bad wolf. You have Myra, who's a very strong, independent female character, like you see in most horror movies. So you have all the elements there, but there's some gruesome scenes, but it's a little bit of everything. There's a lot of mystery there. So, I wouldn't say it's totally horror and where it's completely dedicated to horror, but there's a lot of horror involved. I'd say horror thriller might be a good, description of it.
Yeah.
Too, a very adventurous kind of feeling book.
Yeah. The setting is definitely, I think, what sets it apart from other horror books. It's set in sort of a primitive era. There's no electricity, no guns or anything, swords and shields. There's not really magic or anything, but it's that kind of fantasy world, which, there's definitely some horror stories in that setting, but I think most horror stories, usually people think of, the 50s, or they think of the college kid slasher or whatever.
What brings to mind is you ever see that movie Brotherhood of the Wolf? That's what I'm thinking of, when you describe that. Johnny, you've seen that movie?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's a French film.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's an awesome movie. Okay. But the way you're describing your book, that's what it's bringing to my mind.
I'll check it out. But yeah, in terms of getting into horror, I didn't really consider myself a horror fan growing up or anything. But I also really like science fiction, and I just think a lot of good stories, to me, they take a point or a reality of our life and they kind of dial it up to 11. And that's how they prove the point that they're trying to make. And I think science fiction does that with technology, right? You get I also love Twilight Zone, and I love Black Mirror, which does the same type thing where they take something that we have today and they make it way worse to show it's not good. And I think horror does the same thing, where it takes things that we're scared of or that we're freaked out by.
Yeah, it's almost like cautionary tales in a lot of ways, or learning a lesson or something. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Especially with Tales from the Crypt was a lot like that too. Mm-hmm. And I think you do a lot with horror and sci-fi, especially with the subtext. And I think a lot of the great horror directors do that,
Look at Alien. That's a great example, right?
Alien is probably my favorite horror film, maybe favorite movie. The original one in particular, I'm a huge fan of.
Which one, Alien?
Yeah, Alien.
Yeah, Alien's amazing.
But the other thing that I like about horror that I think everybody here can agree on is that, especially when you're younger, there's this weird sort of rebellious feeling with it of I am not supposed to be watching this.
Oh yeah, I
those
agree
types
with you.
of feelings and the mix of anxiety and excitement and stuff, I think you just don't get that from other genres, and there's something really cool about that.
It's interesting too, like if you ever go to like a convention, like Dave, you might know this too, like but like the horror fans, like if you've gone to like a horror convention, they're the chillest people on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I think it's because, you know, they're allowed to, like, you know, enjoy this horror stuff and like get all those like crazy like feelings out, and like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just, they use the horror as that like release, you know?
Right.
And they're my favorite fans in the world, to tell you the truth. I love them more than comic fans, you know. But like that's what I love about horror myself too.
I was gonna say, like horror. A lot of horror is built on tension, right? So
Yeah,
that kind of
definitely.
finds you where, you know, and especially if you're a kid and you're like, all right, like, so I can point to examples where I've like snuck down when I was a kid to watch like late night horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have been doing that, so that left me on edge. And like,
Oh yeah.
I find going into it already nervous with anxiety. So
It's funny too. You wanted to watch it, but then also you regretted it later when you had to go to bed, and you were scared.
Oh,
You were so scared, you know. Like I remember sneaking out to watch like Phantasm. My father was watching Phantasm, and I was watching it. You know, I was hiding under the couch watching it. And man, when I went to bed that night, I was like, "What did I do that for?" You know, I was so scared. You know,
I even
love
remember
it.
I remember being a kid and sneaking down to watch Gremlins. I think 4, and it was like, it was one of those things where it was just like, it seemed so much harder, like a more scarier movie than what it is now when you see it with like adult eyes or whatever. But like, that was just all part of it. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And this is
Right.
not meant for my
Right.
age or whatever, you know. So
Totally.
No, it's because of. Oh, go ahead, Johnny. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go on, Dave. Go on, Dave.
No, I was just going to say real quick is that horror is what I got into. Because of horror is what I got into doing makeup effects. So I did makeup effects for a long time too, and even starting out in high school, just goofing around.
Did you ever work with any of the greats like K&B or like Savini or anything like that?
Savini actually taught at our school for a little while.
Cool.
Then I ended up working with the Kyoto brothers for a bunch of projects.
Killer Clowns.
The Killer Clowns, yep. And so we did a bunch of stuff, and then we also just freelanced a lot, just done a lot of little projects here and there with other companies.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, just being able to goof around like that and enjoying the horror element, and almost has like a gag as opposed to freaking everybody else out, which was, to me, was the high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the other thing I love about horror too. Like, you can have fun with it. Like, when you think about stuff like Killer Clowns or even like Friday the 13th, stuff that's like kind of silly in a way. Like.
Well, the fourth Nightmare on Elm Street's like more comedy than horror, if you think about it. It was what hammier line can Freddy Krueger come up with now?
Right.
It's just one of those things.
But I love it. I throw it all in a blender. I love all of it. So yeah.
I was going to ask Jared, is there anything you could point to specifically that inspired Heavy Kill?
Yeah, it's probably not the answer. Well, a few things. One, I think the premise is just based on what I think is terrifying, which is something killing you in the middle of the night, which is not, abnormal in horror. But I think the setting, again, just makes them super isolated. They can't call people. They can't go. They don't have police, really. They got to go to another town. It's going to take 2 days walk, whatever. But the other two things that really inspired it were the weird one is Zelda games, like Breath of the Wild and stuff.
Okay.
Because I thought that type of community that you walk into in those types of video games, where it's just a little tiny self-sustaining community of people, maybe there's 50 or 100 villagers or whatever. I thought that was a really interesting setting to use to write a story in, and that kind of just very primitive, supportive community, no money, just kind of all that kind of thing. And then, just a lot of, I like horror video games probably better than anything else in horror, and I play a lot of those. And so playing that stuff late at night with my headphones on, the lights off.
Yeah.
But definitely drugs.
That'll do a
inspiration to
number
do
on
it.
you.
Yeah, that'll
definitely.
make you wanna. That'll give you some inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Brandon? What's a track? Because I saw you have like an anthology, which we were talking about. Like, what attracts you to the whole horror thing?
So what kind of got me into horror was like, it goes in line with what you guys were saying, Jared and Johnny, of like, my parents didn't really want me to see horror movies and specific ones. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. You don't need like a 6-7-year-old watching some of these. That makes perfect sense. But when I was like 8 or 9, I remember my cousin, whenever she would come over, she loved horror movies. And we would go like, hey, let's go to our uncle's house. Because our uncle will let us watch whatever. Won't let us. We're not going to watch like NC-17 stuff, but we're going to watch some horror stuff.
Nice.
And so the biggest memory I remember, not that this has influenced all of my horror writing or anything, but it's the horror movie experience I remember the most, is we went into a video, like a movie rental place back when those were a thing.
Yeah.
We went in there and she rented Saw 3. I knew nothing about any of the Saw movies. I knew nothing about them. I hadn't heard about them. We get back. I'm 8 or 9 years old. We watch Saw 3. And Saw 3, it might not be the goriest, but it has some of the craziest, like, realist deaths and stuff like that. Where it's like, holy crap. So maybe that affected me negatively, positively, not sure yet. But that's what kind of, not specifically that, but like, those type of experiences of like, oh, let's go over to our uncle's house. Let's watch Wrong Turn 3 or whatever. Like just random stuff. And basically, I loved horror movies like super early on. And as I got older, like horror literature, when I was like a little kid, I loved Goosebumps. And then after elementary school, I was like, Goosebumps is for babies. I'm going to pick up the Step Above, the R.L. Stine book, The Step Above. I'm going to pick up his Fear Street books, which nearly all of those books are the exact same plot. It's teenagers go on this one thing. Centipede. We didn't watch Human Centipede. I think that's the one where I was like, no.
That's not even a horror movie. That's just a gross out movie.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Amy starts to puke whenever like I bring that movie up.
But that's the other thing too. Like you mentioned Saw 3. Like maybe that's probably one of the more gorier ones, because like if you look back at the first Saw movie, like yeah, some pretty horrific shit happened, but it's not as gory. That's only when sequels come out and they had to up the ante even more.
Yeah,
I'm probably pretty primed to see Saw 3 because they probably upped the gore level at that point like significantly, you know?
Yeah. As I got older, like rewatching them and stuff, Saw 1 is like, I think, a good movie because it's not the torture porn. That's not what they were going for with that movie. It's not till 2, 3, and beyond that's what they're going for. It gets
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, but like
3's more. Sorry, I was just say the first one's more of like a psychological horror movie.
Exactly.
Like more in line with like Silence of the Lambs, even.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the twist is great in the first one, which I don't want to spoil if anyone's seen it, but what a great twist that was. You did not see that coming.
So good.
Yeah, it was great.
Because there was that, and then there was like the literary stuff, the Fear Street, Goosebumps, all that, and then like scary stories to tell in the dark. Like those stories were like kind of scary. What's terrifying with that, which kind of got me into comic art, which even though that's not comics, they had illustrations in it. The illustrations in scary stories to tell in the dark are terrifying. They're terrifying. They're in like elementary school libraries, and you're just flipping through. It's like, oh my gosh,
like a beheading.
It's like
so true.
The inked artwork is so beautiful, yet like I don't know if like a 7-year-old should see this type of stuff.
Yeah, right. Like I remember my school library had Cycle of the Werewolf, the Stephen King book, and I'm like. Those Bernie Wrightson drawings in that with the werewolf ripping the guy's face off, and I'm like, oh my god, you know. But I loved it. I loved that it was there.
Oh yeah. So there were all of those influences, and then when it comes to me writing something like Dismay Avenue, my anthology horror series, Twilight Zone is the biggest influence.
Yeah, that seems to be like everybody's kind of influence, which is great.
I love Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone. Like I got into it late middle school. have loved it since. I still go back and watch like tons of episodes. I just introduced my sister to it like a couple weeks ago. It's a huge influence on this series because like something that's interesting is I've talked with a bunch of people like reviewing issues 1 and 2 of Dismay Avenue, and a quarter of the people were like, I'm not really into horror stuff, but like I really dug these issues because that's something with like Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone is like horror, but anyone can watch it and get into it. It's not the stereotypical like when people think horror, they think slasher, they think they think gore fest.
Well, I think the great thing about Twilight Zone was sometimes it was horror, sometimes it was just a story. You know what I mean? You never knew what you were going to get. You know,
a lot of science fiction.
Right.
Have you guys have you read? There's actually a graphic novel, an autobio.
Yes.
Or not an autobio, a bio. It's called The Twilight Man. And
Yes,
it's about
I want to
Rod
get
Serling.
Yes.
It's by,
I never read it. No, it's a book or is it like a comic?
It's a graphic novel.
It's a graphic
really?
novel, yeah.
And it's really good. And it'll
It's called The
make you
Twilight Man? I'll have to look for it.
It'll make you like Twilight Zone more.
Really?
You'll be like,
Yeah.
because he had a lot of like, I think he was Jewish, and he had some like issues growing up with that, like people being prejudiced against him, and then him. There's like a part where he's talking about writing science fiction and mystery and stuff because he was like, that way I can say what I want to say without like producers realizing that I'm trying to have like an actual point and like
hiding with subtext. You know?
Yeah, but the first book the first series that he wanted to do was like this post-apocalyptic dark thing where they like euthanize people with disabilities, and like the network was like, we're not putting this on TV. And then and so that's when he ended up writing I guess that was his direct approach, and then Twilight Zone was him trying to skirt around. Anyways, it's a good book, Twilight Man.
I'll have to look for that. I'd be very interested in reading that. That's great. So you guys all like anthologies, I would think, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you guys say Twilight Zone is probably the best one overall out of all?
I'll say it's. I don't know.
I'd say
what's going to
it's
compete
definitely
with Twilight
one
Zone?
or two. It's definitely it's
If
probably
that's
number one
two,
for
what's
me.
number one?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Twilight Zone is number one, but there has been other stuff that like maybe hasn't beat Twilight Zone, but I would say like, oh, this is really good. I might not say it beat Twilight Zone.
It's hard to say because there is a lot of good ones, but I do think Twilight Zone's the best.
Yeah.
Like I like Tales from the Crypt, but there was a ton of duds on Tales from the Crypt. Let's face it, like they have more misses than hits on that show.
I was gonna say though, Tales from the Crypt, like that was almost always consistently horror, where Twilight Zone like dipped into sci-fi or drama or romance. So it wasn't necessarily always. I'm sorry, was it?
There's even some comedy episodes, right?
Yeah.
It mixed things up a little bit, so that's different. Like that's more of like I see that as an anthology, and I see it almost as like, there's some horror episodes, but like when it comes to Tales from the Crypt, I think that's like straight horror, right?
Well, what I like about the Twilight Zone is like even though some episodes are sci-fi or different things like that, there still is a ton of horror elements in all it, because that's the thing with horror is such a broad genre. There's so many subgenres with horror. That you can look at any Twilight Zone episode, and yes, it might feel more sci-fi or might feel more like this, but there is still a lot of horror elements with each episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm also I think I mentioned Black Mirror before. I think that's a good one. And then Love, Death, and Robots is pretty.
I've seen some of that. That's great. I haven't watched the new season yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. That's another great. What about comic book anthologies? Is there like great ones that you guys have read, like comic book horror anthologies?
In recent year, Ice Cream Man has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great one. My wife, I originally kind of didn't really pay attention to it, but my wife picked that one up, and I was bored one day and I read like all the 20 issues she had, and I was like, I really like this. It's good. Depressing as hell, though. My God, like you feel like, I mean, it works. It kind of brings out that feeling in you, you know. But
the silver coin most of the times is pretty good as well.
That one I want to get at some point. That one looks cool. Like I like that idea. There was a guy that I met at Mice a couple of years ago that had a comic book, similar concept to that, where it was, I think his was called The Dark Gun, where it was like about a gun that passes between different people, and that he would also tell a story about, you know, the gun corrupting the person, and it was kind of like, sounds a lot like the silver coin one.
Or 100 bullets, maybe. Same kind of idea.
Something like that. But that I definitely want to check out Silver Coin.
I wanted to read Razor Blades too. I haven't read that.
Oh
yet.
yeah. And I know they just came out with a Creep Show miniseries from Image that I bought the first two, but I haven't read them yet. But it looks good. I looked through it. It looks interesting. Looks like it's drawn well and everything. I don't know how the stories are though. But that's about it. I can't think of any other ones. Can you guys think of any other ones?
Dave, any anthologies that come to mind for you, comic-wise?
No, not off the top of my head. No, I can't think of any.
I was just say, Cthulhu is hard to spell.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah, Johnny, you were part of all three of those, right?
Yes, I was part of all three. And actually, I don't know, some people may have seen the news, but Cthulhu is hard to spell. Originally, the third volume was going to be the last one. Russell just recently partnered up with another company and sold off the rights. So they're actually going to make a new 6th-volume version of Cthulhu with all the old stories plus new ones.
Oh, really? So he's not involved anymore? It's going to be another company?
He's involved, but it's primarily in the hands of another company now.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, hopefully you'll be part of all 6, you know?
We don't know. We'll see.
Awesome. Harry had a kind of a good question for horror stuff, and then I want to take a look at your different projects. What's the funniest horror movie? That's a tough one. There's a lot of funny ones. I mean,
there's
Shaun of the Dead,
horror comedies.
Shaun of the
I'm
Dead.
trying to think what's the funniest. I like Shaun of the Dead. I like Dale and Tucker versus Evil.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah.
The first Return of the Living Dead's amazing. What's that? Psycho Gorman's great, yeah.
Psycho Gorman was so good.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. It has no business being that good. It's a good movie.
It's a lot of fun.
Immensely.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. I love the first Return of the Living Dead. I think that one's hilarious.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too. I love that movie. There's so many, though. There's some that are unintentionally funny, like Pieces or, you name it. Any of those. Some of those.
Well, we mentioned Killer Clowns. That's a good
Killer
one.
Clowns, yeah. How could I forget that one? That was unbelievable.
Or like Troll 2, where it's so bad it's funny, that kind of thing.
I'm a big fan of that. I used to my friend and I used to literally buy DVDs from the dollar store just to watch them and like get these awful movies. There was the peak one, by the way, which is not horror, but it's called Laser Mission. There's no lasers.
With
lasers
Brendan Lee, right?
Lasers.
Yeah, Brendan Lee.
It's Ernest Borgnine's in that too.
Yeah, and it is real bad, but it is
pretty boring.
Like so bad it's good.
Okay, good. I love stuff like that. I love when it's so bad it's good, you know, because it's funny.
No lasers in the movie.
It's called Laser Mission.
Laser Mission, yeah.
That's like
scenes where they're falling off of something, and real quick you can see like the mat that they're falling onto and stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of other bad stuff.
The main villain dies 4 times and keeps coming back and something. Like literally gets exploded and like comes back like all burnt. Anyways, yeah, it's
probably one of my. It's not even a horror movie, but one of my horror, like really bad movie, but that's so damn funny that I show everybody is Jim Cotta. You guys ever seen that movie?
Oh,
yeah, I just saw it recently again. That was a classic.
Oh my god, it's so damn funny. I highly recommend it out there for anybody looking for a laugh, you know.
There is one I'll recommend, and it's 50-50 because I recommended it to someone and they're like, I couldn't get through it. Llamageddon. I like Llamageddon.
Oh my god!
I haven't even heard of that one.
The reason I like it is they intentionally made a bad movie. It makes it's funny because it feels like you're in on the joke, like you're hanging out with friends just about. I don't know. I really liked Long
My
Dead.
favorite is the ones that are they're really trying to make a good movie and it just turns bad.
Birdemic. Remember Birdemic?
Birdemic, perfect example. Like, or even
like
Sharknado.
Sharknado, stuff like that. Yeah.
But like, don't forget, like Sam Raimi too. Like he did such a good job of blending like comedy and horror. You know, like you look at Evil Dead 2, which is literally just a remake of Evil Dead 1, but fun.
Yeah, Army of Darkness, all that stuff.
To hell, like comedic throughout, but also still true to its horror tone and roots.
Yeah, good example. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, yeah, I wanted to talk horror with you guys and comics. I think we did that really well. Now, I definitely want to take a look at everybody's projects here too. I'm going to start with Dave's project here. So that we can highlight you guys here. So this is Memoirs of the ReAnimator. So tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter, Dave.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter is kind of a combination of things. We have the comic itself, which is finished, and we're working on one of the stretch goals will be a little bonus epilogue story of a new series that we're working on.
Okay.
And then we have a bunch of variants as well. And we did a little bit of a mashup with some of between the variants, the stickers, we got t-shirts, and then we decided to do a radio drama with this.
Oh,
cool. Yeah, so a friend of mine who I've worked with in film for a long time, we got back together and he's composed some of my projects in the past. So we said, why don't we work on a radio drama? So we're we're in the mixing stage of that right now. So that'll be done within the next couple of months.
This is really cool. The statue you made here. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I have I'll be at Rhode Island Comic Con this weekend, so I'll have the statue with me as a prototype.
Oh,
but
cool.
Yeah, so the statue's all magnetic. So his arms and all his heads come on and off, and then the muscle head there will glow in the dark as well.
Oh wow, that's so cool, dude.
Yeah. And then the cool thing too is that what we offer in some of our rewards that you can create your own head and put it on there. And then if you wanted to create a monster head, we'll do that for you as well.
Oh wow, awesome, dude.
Cool,
dude. You got a lot of cool stuff on this. This is great.
Yeah, our t-shirts glow in the dark, all that good stuff. We try to do as much glow in the dark as possible.
Yeah, it goes good with the horror stuff, I think, especially with
especially for
Herbert Rest. Too. Yeah,
exactly.
I backed a ReAnimator project from Dynamite that came with a syringe. I got it back here. So, yeah, right here. Of course, I just dropped it. It's a syringe that it's like a pen, and it has the liquid in it. And I thought that was a cool giveaway for
definitely.
That's cool.
For a ReAnimator related project.
So the second you die, you'll get your wife to inject you with it.
or write a script on my body, because it's a pen, but yeah, this looks great, Dave. So would you recommend people, is there a favorite one that you like on the campaign that you want to point people towards?
Yeah, we do. What I've been doing is a lot more add-ons so that you can pick, obviously pick anything you want, and then you can just kind of make your own little package. I do have a couple of package tiers. Some of our higher tiers include everything, including the statue, plus the extra bonuses with the statue. But if you just want to pick up the book, we've got all the PDFs and everything. So you can get the books down from anywhere from $3 to, $5, $6. So, on up. So it's,
Is it just one issue, or is it going to be a whole series?
Yeah, this is just the first issue, but it will be a series. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Is it? Do you have is it a finite number, or is it a mini? Is it an ongoing?
It's just kind of ongoing. What I'm doing is I'm combining the fact that since it's Memoirs of the ReAnimator, so the first issue, the way I have it started out is the first 2 pages is a diary entry by Ward Lovecraft about his friend Herbert West. So it sets up the narrator condition from the first H.P. Lovecraft story, and then it goes into the actual story itself between the two characters. And this picks up about 1914 when they're both 17 years old, and they're both going to Miskatonic University. So it's kind of like a Peaky Blinders-esque meets ReAnimator. Cool. And so then it goes on for their relationship and what happens at the end of this book. And so what I end up doing is they do split up for a little bit. So the next issue will have, ReAnimator in the front, and then I'll do like a little epilogue with what's going on with Lovecraft, because the two characters do come back together again and other issues. So cool. It's just kind of a fun little, it's more of like kind of the adventures of this mad scientist going, wreaking kind of havoc with his little experiments. And I have a bunch of little ideas with that. So I just kind of putting out these issues as I go.
I love that you're building your own like dark side media like universe here,
Thanks.
Kind of like taking the inspiration from Lovecraft but doing your own spin on it, which I think is really cool.
We have
the buy-in for the books is really reasonable. Like I saw, like you can get the issue for $5 and plus shipping. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's great.
In a print. So I try to keep everything, cost effective. And like I said, we are adding on we're creating another series called the Miskatonic 7. Okay. And so that takes place in another parallel universe with a different Lovecraft version of War Lovecraft. And he's basically what he's doing is he's harnessing a superhero character, the Black Terror. We created a new origin for the Black Terror, which was actual 1940s.
Oh yeah, I've seen that character. Dynamite's used him.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of used him here and there. So
that's cool.
I figured in our story we created a new origin where he's between Charles Dexter and Herbert West have created this character that they're trying to control Cthulhu. And so in order to do that, they need somebody that's superhuman. So they created this character and mashed him up with Yog-Sothoth to, give him a little bit more juice. So it's kind of that story. And all this plays into a bigger book, which I'm working on, will come out next year. So all these little universes will come together in that one book.
Nice.
Incredible, dude. You got a lot of stuff going on. I love these coins, too, that you made. Those are really cool.
Thanks. Man. Yeah, the challenge coins, the challenge coins have coordinates that go with each book, so you'll know where each location of the book takes place. And
very cool.
That's pretty cool.
I love that. I love that you put a lot of thought into, the perks. The items you can get in this universe. Really cool, man. How long you been making comics?
We're going on about 11 years.
11 years. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a long time. I mean, we've been doing it ourselves and just utilizing Kickstarter. This is our fifth Kickstarter this year and our final one for the year. And between just doing that and shows, it's, we've been getting it out there to everybody. Next year, we're working on a RPG kind of mashup board game for the Lovecraft universe. So like with the coins and all that stuff, that's why we always kind of make sure that the coins are on our add-ons, because that'll all come into place with the game.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. I love this cover because it's very, I'm blanking on the artist.
Rockwell.
Norman Rockwell, like especially with the circle. I love it. That's great stuff. This is cool, man. I like this cover too. I think people should check this out. $5 to get in on if you just want to read the comic and then add on stuff in the checkout that you want to do. It's a radio trauma play. That's great.
We're doing it on vinyl and MP3, so you'll have.
Really? Oh wow, man, that's awesome. And this statue's awesome as well. Like, I mean, look at that. This is really cool.
Yeah, people flip out when they see it at shows because of the detail. It's a 1/10 scale, so he's not huge. But the fact that he comes apart and that he, the detail on him is pretty wild. So.
Yeah, no, it really is cool. Like, and it comes with this case, this box, and everything. Yep. Wow.
Yeah, he's all embedded in foam, and so he's for safe travels. We were able to design the box. I'm pretty psyched about that.
So if you just wanted to get the statue, how much would that be for on your
statue's $200, and you get all 200. You get all three heads, and for an extra $20, we just created a bust that's a two-headed bust, so that you can attach the two magnet heads into that bust, so that they're not necessarily rolling around on the base.
Wow! Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, and see, you already hit your goal, so that's awesome. You got
congrats on that.
31 days to go. I think this is going to go past like 10 at least easily, by the time you're done.
I hope so. Yeah, we wanted to, because it's our last one of the season, I wanted to do about, like a 54-day campaign. So, which I've never done a really long campaign before. So it's something with this, I just wanted to, see what it would do.
Has the experience been good with the 60-day campaign over 30 days? Like, would you recommend that to creators?
Well, I think, I've been doing this for a while, and it's always one of those things where it's tough trying to figure out, okay, when do I start promoting ahead of time? And I always feel it's because we're always inundated with so much information between newsletters and everything else in our emails and, and social media. I feel like that window's kind of, especially with Kickstarter, is kind of narrow, where you do it like the week or two before. And then once you launch, then you have all that time to keep peddling it and getting it out there. Now, with my Berserker series, I only do those for 17 days. And just because of the fact that I know the performance level, I know how they do. And it's really tough I've tried to do them at 30 days and they don't make really any more money than they do at 17 days. Gotcha. So for me, it's just one of those things where I'm like, why would I'm not going to waste my time on something that's just doing the same thing. So with these bigger campaigns, and ReAnimator is a little bit more well-known. My book is completely, esoteric. So it's one of those things where ReAnimator is a little bit more known. So more eyes are on it. So I figured giving it a wider berth for advertising, especially towards Christmas time and all that, it just helps.
Yeah, definitely. Makes sense through the Halloween season too. That all that stuff helps.
Well, and the thing too, I'm going to do is make sure that everybody gets the PDF before Christmas. So everybody at least get their PDF before Christmas, and then the books will come by January, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty quick.
That's awesome. That's great. Dr. Mass said lots of cool things on this campaign.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool tchotchkes.
Yeah, very, very cool, Dave. I'm glad you made it already, because I was going to say it's a sin if this thing isn't funded already.
Yeah, it was tough trying to figure out the goal, but I was like, okay, I think 5,000 is a pretty good one, so we'll aim for that.
I was going to ask Dave, if you don't mind me prying, what's the profit margins when you have so many awesome premium items like the statue?
It depends on how much gets sold. So for us, it's one of those things where I utilize Kickstarter for buying the merchandise, and that I can use to get back to the backers. And then whatever I have left, I take it with me to the shows. So it's like it starts off razor thin, but then it eventually just kind of starts paying itself back. Because when I have this stuff at shows, it's just a little easier to be like, oh, hey, we actually have, because I've had a lot of people that want to buy the kit, but I don't have it yet. So, once I have the kit, then it's just easier to go, here you go.
Yeah, I think that's probably safe to say with even like the figures I'm making now. I know those are going to be a lot of out-of-the-pocket expenses, but I'm hoping by the time I get them for shows and then possibly on my Indiegogo, that I'll hopefully move some to make it worthwhile, So, but that's great stuff, Dave. Congrats. I like what you're doing. I love the whole Cthulhu verse you created, and I'm sure Johnny be all over this because
I can appreciate it for sure.
And
yeah, I bet.
And Johnny, you'll have to. Dave does a lot of shows in our area. I don't know if you met him when he was at Plastic City.
I think we've seen each other before, like in passing.
Yeah, before definitely. But yeah, we'll have to link up the next show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you planning on doing a bunch of shows next year, Dave?
Yeah, I've already started signing up. I think I've got 3 or 4, and I'm also doing my first show that we created ourselves called the Crawling Chaos Con.
Oh, cool.
Which is for one day it's a gallery show, the next day it's a vendor show. It's March 10th and 11th in Providence and in Mass. So.
Oh, very cool.
Dave, have you done Monster Expo at all?
Yeah, I just did them a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, so I passed through that one, so we may have crossed paths there.
I think we did see it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I finally got a new venue for plastic for next year, so I'm going to probably be putting up the sign-ups hopefully next week or the week after so people can start signing up. Much better. It's going to be a much better venue than we've had in the past, which I cannot
Sign me up for a table, Keith.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, and then, all right, so let's take a look at yours, Brandon. I know you have an active campaign as well. Let me see here. Yeah, so this is Dismay Avenue. Tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah, so again, a huge influence for me is stuff like The Twilight Zone and Dismay Avenue. With each issue, it has various stories. In issue 1, it's over 40 pages long. That's the cover of issue 2.
I love
issue
that
1,
cover right there.
Thank
it's
you.
great.
Thank you, yeah. In issue 1, it's over 40 pages long. It's a 40-page long story and then a 1-page comedy backup horror thing to kind of alleviate some of the anxiety and horror you just experienced. But yeah, issue 1 follows Ben and Mia. Scroll all the way down, like scroll a little bit more. Like this is issue 2. Yeah. I'll go back to issue 2. Yeah, I made sure to get very distinct and different art styles. But yeah, that's issue 1 right there.
Okay.
There we go.
Started right here. Okay.
Yeah, so issue 1, it follows a couple. The story is called Program. It follows a couple named Ben and Mia who are going on a movie date night. And the movie that they want to go see is playing on the outskirts of this town that they live in. And they haven't really heard of the theater. And they get there, huge Cineplex, parking lot's dead. No one's there. They go in. It's just 2 concessions workers and some weird kind of shady guy with a hoodie pulled over in the lobby. That's it. And the whole time they're just kind of whispering to each other like any awkward real couple would, of just like, yeah, this is kind of weird. Let's go see the movie and stuff. And part of that with this story is the first third of that story is pretty much completely true. Like it was a date night that I had with the girl like in college. And the story is basically like a what if. Like what if it went this
what if
creepy psychological horror realm. And it turned out very well. And then issue 2 has over 60 pages of story. That's towards the top with all the different art styles and stuff. Issue 2 is just crazy. Over 60 pages of story. And the first one is Tolls the Bells. And Tolls the Bells is that one right there. The black and white manga art style. That's
really cool artwork.
Thank you. Yeah, Gaetano Matt Riglio knocks it out of the park with this, because this one, it follows a little boy who has to stay after school one day, and basically teachers go missing, everyone goes missing, and it's kind of like a horror of isolation and darkness coming in on this kid, and it just spirals from there. And I love the artwork because if anyone likes manga and like Junji Ito,
that's what it reminds me
of. Ito inspired, because I love reading Junji Ito, so the story itself feels like a Junji Ito story, and the artwork, Gaetano, he makes it feel very much like a Junji Ito art style, because it's just crazy.
I would
stuff
say
like
so. It looks really good.
Yeah, and then this one,
all these stories look great though, Brandon.
Thank you.
Good job.
Raw Horror is the same artist of Program, the first issue, and it follows a military soldier waking up in his house, unsure of his environment, and it goes from there, basically.
I even like the choice in the lettering style for this page,
Yes,
really cool
it's
stuff.
very dreamlike, surreal, atmospheric, and it fits the story. And then that one, Destination, it's more modern, contemporary art style, but Federico Gillen is great with lighting, and the lighting is amazing with this.
Has like a manga influence as well,
Oh yeah, like webtoon manga.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what we were going for, because this one, it follows a little girl who goes to a thrift shop with her mom, and the mom's like, hey, like go look around, see what you can find and stuff. She finds this musical triangle that when you strike it, sends you into other dimensions.
Oh, cool.
And each time you strike it, it just gets worse and worse. The dimensions you get sent to, it's just worse and worse, to where you have her in a dimension with this monster type creature, basically.
Very cool.
So and then the last one is Acolyte, which if anyone is fans of Gallows Man, my other series, Helen Bolton did the art for this, and she's also the artist for Gallows Man. And this one follows, it's very much like a Dr. Seuss-esque art style, because that's intentional. The beginning feels like a Dr. Seuss story. It follows a character named Mr. Hinklehorn, who is very much, that's a Dr. Seuss name, Mr. Hinklehorn.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's going about his day, and he's just getting crap from everyone, from coworkers, people in the grocery store, in traffic. And all of this stuff is going on, but how he responds is just a big old smile and just, thank you, sir, or have a nice day. And it's like, something's up with Mr. Hinklehorn. As the story progresses, it's like, okay, yep, I see definitely what is up with Mr. Hinklehorn. I'll say this isn't a spoiler, but it doesn't go the obvious route. Mr. Hinklehorn's not a serial killer.
Okay.
That's the obvious route, but it's very well done. And then a big thing I want to mention with this, everyone listening, you're on here for comics. So I would assume you like comics, but if for some reason you're listening to this and you don't like comics at all, there is an exclusive Dismay Avenue t-shirt, which is later in the campaign page, and anyone can get that. It's a awesome t-shirt.
It down here somewhere?
Yeah, it's right below. Keep going. No, keep going up is what I mean. Let's see. Keep going. Right past the variant covers. Right there.
Right here. Yeah, this is a cool image.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically this awesome Dismay Avenue exclusive t-shirt can have this little boy, Vortex on your chest, reaching out and just be like, no, it stays. It's a design. He isn't getting out. This is my t-shirt. So yeah, people can get this t-shirt if they don't like comics. If you like comics, you can get the comics and get this as an add-on.
It's a great t-shirt design too. Like even if you don't know what it's from, it's kind of like a nice horror image,
Yeah.
Thank you.
People might think it's Junjito,
Hey, I'm fine with that. Like,
it's great. Yeah,
it's a compliment when people say that, because Junji Ito stuff is so great.
So, same with you, Brandon. It looks like you offer the comics at a decent price for people. So, you get 1 and 2 digital for $9, which is great.
Exactly. Like,
how come you just didn't do 10? Like, out of curiosity.
9.1 is smaller, and when you look at it as a number compared to 10, even though it's $1 less,
is it like the same thing, like when you put something at $9.99 or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And then like the physical one. So,
and I do want to mention with these comics, like issue 1 over 40 pages of story can get it $5 digitally. Issues 1 and 2 over 100 pages of comics, because issue 2 is huge. So over 100 pages of comics get it $9 digitally. And then physical copies start at $11. But again, these aren't standard size issues. These
right, and if you want to get
issues.
Both of them, you get it for $25, and they get signed.
And that's signed.
You get a sticker and all that stuff. Yeah, that's worth it.
And there's like creator value bundles where like you get a complete set, like all the stuff signed, all the variant covers, all the sticker sets, all that, all the stretch goals and stuff, and then you get the scripts. You can look at the scripts and see like, oh, like I can learn something from him, or like, oh, he sucks at writing. I can't learn anything. So you can see there, and you also get a 2 hour.
I don't think that would be the case, but I will. I will back this, Brandon, because I definitely want to check out something from you, and I think the horror stuff. It looks great. Like I definitely want to at least get maybe the digital of 1 and 2, and just check it out from you. That's
Each
great.
Each story is very distinct, where I hope everyone likes all the stories, and I think everyone will like all the stories. But at the very least, you're going to have one that you really like.
Awesome. That's what's great about anthologies, If you get a dud, you get another good story right after, or, or sometimes you get all great ones, So that's what, it's awesome. So variety makes the spice of life, right? And so finally, want to definitely check out Jared's book here. Now, you don't have a Kickstarter going, but you do have Heavy Kill, which you just completed during COVID, right? You were saying. Yeah. And was SPX your first show of the year selling it, Jared?
I did a little. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I did a little show here. And then I did SPX, and then I'm doing probably a couple more here in the next few months. But yeah.
I like your art style a lot.
Thank you.
I mean, this character looks wild. Like, like I love the mask and what's your elevator pitch for Heavy Kill? Like when someone comes up to your table, what do you tell them?
So like I said, it takes place in sort of a very primitive village. Swords and Shields, that kind of thing. And basically people start getting brutally killed in the middle of the night, like just totally destroyed in very gory ways. And this girl here, her name is Myra, and she's sort of a, maybe late teens, early 20s type thing. And she ends up sort of in the middle of the whole thing, trying to figure out what's going on, and also ends up kind of being the person who's got to defend the village more than anybody else. So,
Gotcha.
and yeah, you're clicking through here. I actually have, it's an 11 chapter book. It's the hardcover is like 260 pages. So you can read the first 3 chapters in their entirety on my website now. So,
and how the book that you sell, how many pages is that?
This book here, the one that Johnny held up as well and was nice enough to pick up, is right around 260 pages. But
so that's 260 pages. It's a hardcover, people, for $15. Like that is insane.
Yeah.
What a bargain! And the first thing I want to compliment you on, Jared, just looking at your artwork. This reminds me of something that would come out from like Top Shelf, like Top Shelf Comics, like they, like that dude that did. Did you ever see that graphic novel Blankets? It reminds me kind of like that style, like of artwork,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Top Shelf stuff and First Second, all those types of things. I'm reading the First Second book right now, actually. So yeah, that's I'll take that as a big compliment.
Yeah, definitely. I really I dig the style. I like black and white myself, so like, this is definitely up my alley. Like,
and you did everything, Jared, right? Did you letter and all that stuff too?
Yeah, this is all me. This book. So
yeah, great job.
That's
Usually
awesome,
people
man. Yeah,
get
real good work there.
People get sloppy with the lettering, but the lettering looks really good and complements the style of the book.
Yeah, my day job is graphic designer, and I've been.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
It shows, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's too like I like my writing. I like my art. I feel pretty aware that it's not. I don't know. If you look at a Spider-Man comic and you look at this,
it's not like an image, like buff, like ripped guy. It's like
So I feel like lean into your strengths. So I'm like.
This is
design, composition. That's all super important to me.
No, I like this. Like I said, it reminds me of that Top Shelf stuff. So to me, it's like perfect indie, indie style, And just scrolling through this looks great. I definitely want to check it out.
Thanks.
And you said it's a 200 pages.
The actual story is, I think, right around
245.
245. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have it seems like you have something at the end there. I only just kind of flipped through it, but I didn't look at the end there. But it seems like you have a little extra story there too.
A little post-credit scene there at the end.
I like it.
Gotcha. What do you charge for shipping, by the way? Does it depend where it's going?
I think I charge like $5-10. Yeah.
Man, what a bargain, dude.
And I will tell you,
dude,
since we're talking to creators, the bargain is that it's a 6x9 book, so it's a little smaller than a regular comic.
Okay.
And then it's black and white, and those two things make it a lot more affordable to print.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and also, I'm doing everything myself. Color. One, I didn't love color in this story, but it also made it a lot easier for me to get through the pages and focus.
Is this done mostly digital? Did you do the artwork digital?
It's it's like iPad.
Okay.
100%.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't have any original art or anything, unfortunately. But yeah.
No, this looks good, dude. Next paycheck, I'm probably gonna send you an order here.
Yeah.
I think a Heavy Kill looks awesome. Johnny, you've read half of it, you said?
I'm about halfway through it right now, and it's really good. Each chapter's got me hooked. It's hard to put it down. So
yeah,
well done, man.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody out there, you guys should check that book out. There's a link to all these guys' Kickstarters and in Jared's website below in the description of this video. So if you're watching this tomorrow or any other time, just go check out those links. They'll take you right to the website so you can back and. And
I'll say, too, I do have a couple one-shots as well that are unrelated to Heavy Kill, including one that I made after Heavy Kill, like a horror Western story.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so if you guys want to want to check that stuff out, that's just jaredthrone.com. But everything's all linked together, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I think I put the link to the store, I think, on your website. Something like that. So
everything's all you, Jared. Or did you have any collaborators on other stories?
My new story, the most recent story, is the Cowboy Horror. That's a one-shot. It's about 30 pages. And I had somebody do the flats for the colors. But that's it. Everything else I'm working on. I am working on a series right now with an artist. Like I would be writing it and he's going to be drawing it. That we've been kind of pitching around and putting together. And then I'm working on my, actually, like just these last couple of weeks, I started drawing my next graphic novel. It's going to be
cool.
Similar format, not necessarily in the same universe as Heavy Kill or anything, totally different thing. Kind of a sci-fi heist book.
Nice.
So I just started drawing that.
And so you got the bug now, right? You got to start
making
comics, going to catch up.
It's funny too. The joke that I always make is like, the one thing I learned making this book was write shorter stories, because drawing it's funny. It's this mix, like it's very therapeutic and I really enjoy it. But then also I'm like, oh, sweet, finish up page 6. That only took me, X amount of hours. And then I'm like, wait, I have like 160 left, or whatever it is. It's just like, no, don't think about that. Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going until you get to the finish line. That's great. Well, congrats, man. That's a huge for your first time to do a big book like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're at about 90 minutes, which is insane. The time flies.
Flew right by.
In fact, you could say it's the length of a crappy horror movie from the 80s, But so I'm going to start wrapping up the show now, and I'd like to go around the room and just have, if you guys want to share your social media, out to the people, let them know where people can find you. And, I already have the links for your Kickstarters and stuff below. So, I'd say start with you, Jared. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so heavykill.com, jaredthrone.com is the easiest one. I'm pretty active on Instagram, so it's just Jared_Throne or heavykill_comic. And I post a lot more on the Heavy Kill Instagram, but the personal one is a lot of mix of design work and artwork and all that kind of stuff too. And yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Brandon? Where can people find you?
Dismay Comics for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can just put in Dismay Comics. I'll be right there. And I got a podcast I do with a buddy of mine called Store Brand Comics. You can find that on most podcast listening apps, where half the time we're coming up with pitches for random mix match stuff. Like recently we did James Bond and the anime Fate Stay Night, and we combined those two, and it was very weird but fun. So yeah, you can check that out.
Is it an audio podcast or is
it's audio? Yeah, it's a hobby podcast. Like half the time we're coming up with pitches, half the time we're philosophizing on Batman or poop or Batman's poop, whatever it may be.
All right.
I imagine it's full of fiber. It's like. But how about you, Dave?
Yeah, so you can find us at darksidemedia.us. We're all over Instagram under Darkside Media and Lovecraft PI, or lovecraftpi.com. And I'm going to be actually at Rhode Island Comic Con this weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wish you luck. I've had mixed results with Rhode Island, but I think you have a lot of good stuff that has crossover potential with the audience there.
Hopefully being in the hometown of Lovecraft will help a little bit. But
yeah, I think so. And I think it's heavy on celebrities, but I think you'd have some crossover with the ReAnimator, with the Cthulhu stuff, So
yeah, no, I hope so too. And I mean, I don't do the show off. I do it once every 6-7 years, just because I get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
It's a big show, so it's one of those things. I figure, well, might as well go out on this one,
Yeah, especially if you've been doing a lot of shows this year, why not, Yeah,
exactly. So, we're all over social media, Facebook, Darkside Media, and Yep. No, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate having all you guys on. And then, down the road, if you have anything else you want to promote, definitely get in touch with us. But try to get in touch with us like 4 months out at least, because I honestly am booking people for January right now.
You know what,
it's
though?
Insane.
That's a good problem.
It is a great problem.
Guys, so.
The thing that stinks though is like you want to help everybody, but we just cannot do it. So that's why I try to tell everybody, like, try to get in quick, or as soon as you know you're doing something, let us know. Johnny, how about you? Anything you want to add to?
Yeah, I'm just going to run through some of the campaigns that are running right now. First is Bigfoot Knows Karate. It ends on November 11th. So check that out. Those guys smashed their goal. We Suck at Comics, an anthology about rejection. I'm in that. That's the Wayward Raven guys.
Yeah, love
I'm actually
that
going to
title.
I'm going to post that link in the comments.
Okay.
So if you want to check it out from that link, because that also benefits me. It shows that I drove you guys to the campaign. Also, we have the other thing I'm backing is Dismay Avenue, so that's going to be ending on November 18th.
Nice.
Check that out. And then launch today, Paul Axel, The Kobolds Claim. That's ending on November 21st. He's doing a very short run on that one, so don't sleep on that one. That one's really good. I also want to give a big shout out. I was backing a lot of campaigns, and there's 3 that didn't make it, and I just want to kind of, just give them a shout out, and maybe like if you follow these creators, just give them some words of encouragement to release it somewhere. One is Mario Candelara's One True Love. He canceled the campaign. Don't know why. Maybe he wasn't on track to meet his goal, but the story looks really awesome. I hope he releases it some way, somehow. Our friend Phil Myra, second time around on Purple Eyes, did not make it.
Oh, my God.
Just an awesome story and such an awesome concept. I really do hope that Phil gives it a second life. And our friends at the Kryptonoids, they didn't make their campaign, but they went over to Indiegogo, and it looks like they made back most of what they.
Well, and that's their second chance one, right? So they so.
Yep. But all awesome creators, and I hope that their work gets out there no matter what. And last but not least, everybody watching, make sure you check out Dave's work, check out Brandon's work, check out Jared's work. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on tonight. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, definitely. I reiterate everything Johnny just said. Thank you guys for being here. We are, if you guys have any money left over, consider checking out Mighty Mascots, where it's going to be open for a while. Like, I'm probably going to have it open up until early next year. So you have time.
I gotta commend you on your puppetry. Your puppetry was very good to where midway through I was like, oh, that's Keith. That's Keith's voice.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a fun video to shoot, And my wife actually made that puppet, which, I mean, she's an incredible artist. So, but yeah, that was a fun one. So check that out. I think we're off next week, Johnny. We were supposed to have somebody next week, but we moved them, so we're actually off next Wednesday. So we'll be back.
I'm going to be at Dynamite next week anyway.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
There. Yeah.
I think that's why we moved the person up like two weeks later. So, so we're off next week, but we'll be back the following Wednesday. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to end this episode. Any final words before we close out this live stream?
Check out my Kickstarter, please. We're going until December 4th.
Awesome. All right.
And be excellent to one another.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good one.
Read some comics. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks
all right. Bye.
Cheers.